You can measure the strength of a man by one simple thing: how much he can hold back. Not how loud he can be, not how clever he sounds, but whether he can stay silent when every part of him is begging to speak. People don't fail because they lack intelligence. Most of them are smart enough. They fail because they cannot control themselves. They speak too quickly. They think too chaotically. They feel too intensely. They spend too impulsively. Their lives are a loop of reactions instead of decisions. Machiavelli understood something most modern people still haven't realized. Real power begins with mastering yourself. Not the polished version you show the world. Not the persona you post online. No. It begins with the quiet, private version of you that nobody sees. The part of you that wrestles with your mind, your impulses, your moods, and your desires. When you master your mouth, your thoughts, your emotional state, and your money, you stop living like a leaf blown around by the wind. You stand apart from the frantic crowd. You rise above the noise. And let's be clear, this message is not for everyone. It's not meant for people who want shortcuts or easy validation. This is for the ones who are ready to rule themselves before even thinking about influencing anyone else. The first battlefield is your mouth. And make no mistake, it is a battlefield. More futures have been destroyed by careless words than by enemies. Every time you speak without thinking, you hand someone a piece of your strategy. You give away something they can use against you later. Machiavelli warned that a man who talks too freely arms his enemies. He hands out information like candy, not realizing he's feeding the very people who will one day challenge him. Silence, on the other hand, is unsettling. It makes people lean in. It makes them curious. It creates tension. It gives you gravity. The man who talks constantly drains himself. The man who knows how to say nothing builds power quietly, brick by brick. In a world obsessed with being heard, try something radical. Be understood without using many words at all. Let the others drown in their noise. Because while they speak endlessly, revealing every insecurity, every weakness, every intention, you reveal nothing. You become a cold, quiet wall they cannot read. And behind that wall, you calculate, you observe, you strategize. The impulsive man's tongue drags him into disaster. The strategic man's tongue builds his empire. Think about the most powerful leaders in history who ruined everything because of a single sentence said in anger, arrogance, or emotion. True leaders don't speak to impress. They speak to influence, to direct, and yes, sometimes to manipulate. Silence is what lets them read the room, study the players, sense the timing. Silence gives you the advantage of patience, of information, of precision. But here's the twist. You can't master your mouth until you master your mind. Because your mouth is merely the messenger of your thoughts. Your impulses, your reactions, your emotions, they all begin in your mind. And that mind is a battlefield. Thoughts are constantly fighting for dominance. Some sharpen you. Others sabotage you. If you don't learn to govern your own thoughts, they will govern you. An undisciplined mind convinces you that every insult needs a reply. Every comment deserves a comeback. Every provocation must be met with force. But that's a lie. Weak men react to everything. Strong men choose their battles. Machiavelli taught that dominion over the world begins with dominion over yourself. You cannot influence anyone, not truly, if your inner world is still chaotic and undisciplined. Mental discipline is not natural. It's forged the way steel is forged, under pressure, under discomfort. In moments when your mind wants to burst and your ego wants to lash out. But the moment you resist, the moment you say no, even when everything inside you screams, react, you become stronger. Every act of self-restraint is a form of victory. Because here's the truth. The man who reacts loses. The man who calculates wins. If your mood controls you, anyone can control you, and many will try. Machiavelli knew the secret. Stay cold when the world is burning. If you can remain calm in chaos, you immediately rise above those who panic. Because most people don't manage their emotions manage them. One rude comment ruins their day. One failure destroys their confidence. One disagreement derails their focus. But a powerful man learns to feel without acting, to observe his emotions like passing weather, not commands, not orders, just signals. And the more you understand those signals, the less the world can manipulate you. That's when you become dangerous. Because a man who cannot be emotionally shaken is a man who commands respect without ever asking for it. But none of this your mouth, your mind, your mood matters if you cannot master your money. Because money is not just currency. Money is a mirror. It reflects your discipline, your impulses, your fears, and your desires. You can claim you're in control, but your bank account will tell the truth. Money is the physical extension of your mind. If you're chaotic inside, your finances will be chaotic too. If you lack discipline internally, you'll lack it externally guaranteed. That's why people who are irresponsible when they're broke become disasters when they get rich. Money amplifies who you already are. Machiavelli said fortune favors those who approach it with caution and boldness. Caution preserves your resources. Boldness multiplies them. But the real foundation is restraint, knowing when not to spend, not to show off, not to chase every impulse wrapped in excitement. Guard your money the same way you guard your silence, with intention, with respect, with strategy. Every pointless purchase is a confession of weakness. Every emotional swipe of the card is an admission that you are not the one in control. The world wants you impulsive, consumption-driven, distracted. Because impulsive men never build anything. They feed industries, not legacies. The strongest men are not the richest. They are the ones who spend with clarity. A strong man chooses where his money goes. A weak man asks where it went. Money should flow only into what strengthens you, not what drains you. Learn to delay gratification. Because here's the truth. The man who can wait can have almost anything. The man who cannot wait will lose everything trying to grab it too early. Most people fail because they want everything now. They talk before thinking, spend before earning, react before understanding. Their life becomes a chain reaction of emotional decisions. Machiavelli would have laughed at the masses enslaved not by governments, but by their own impulses. Become the opposite. Become the prince who governs himself before governing anything else. Because these four forces, your mouth, your mind, your mood, and your money, are all connected. Lose control of one, and the others fall like dominoes. When you talk too much, you think less. When you react too quickly, you spend recklessly. When you spend recklessly, your mind collapses under pressure. It's all one chain, and you are the first and most important link. That's why every morning must begin with a vow of inner silence, not literal silence, but psychological silence. A pause before speaking, a breath before reacting, a moment of clarity before making any judgment. Society has trained you to respond instantly, emotionally, loudly. But instant reactions are the behaviors of slaves, slaves to ego, slaves to impulses, slaves to fear. Instead, learn to become the architect of your own strength. Quiet, deliberate, lucid. Once you control yourself, you no longer need to convince anyone of your power. Your calm becomes your dominance. Your silence becomes your authority. The world belongs to those who can restrain themselves while everyone else collapses under emotion. Noise attracts the weak. Silence attracts the powerful. Stop losing yourself in meaningless conversations, pointless debates, and emotional purchases. Stop reacting to every provocation. Stop explaining yourself to people who don't deserve access to your thoughts. Become a strategist, a man whose words are rare, whose thoughts are precise, whose emotions are disciplined, whose money is guarded. Every time you stay calm when someone tries to provoke you, you gain power. Every time you hold back from speaking, you become more dangerous. Every time you resist spending to impress, you gain a little more freedom. And freedom is a currency no one can ever take from you unless you give it away. Self-mastery is the most lethal weapon Machiavelli ever hinted at. Because a man who owns himself cannot be bought. He cannot be broken. He cannot be manipulated. When you tame everything burning inside you, you move through the world differently, quieter, sharper, unshakable. Most people see control as a prison. They think boundaries limit them, discipline restricts them. But the truth is the opposite. Self-control is not confinement. It's liberation. When you control your instincts, you aren't locking yourself in. You're refusing to let the world lock its chains around you. A man who is free internally is more powerful than 1,000 men who appear strong but crumble the moment their emotions are touched. Stop trying to prove yourself. Stop trying to be understood. Be what others pretend to be. Calm, precise, strategic. While they burn themselves out talking, you build. While they spend to impress, you accumulate. While they react to everything, you observe. And when the moment comes, you strike. Not with anger, not with rage, but with precision, with presence, with absolute certainty. Because you mastered the battlefield inside before stepping onto the battlefield outside. You cannot claim power in the world if you have not first learned to govern yourself. Machiavelli warned that a prince ruled by his impulses loses his throne before he even steps onto the battlefield. And that is exactly what's happening to modern men. They dream like kings, but they act like slaves. Slaves to desire, slaves to validation, slaves to comfort. Their mind becomes an open prison, unlocked from the inside. Yet they refuse to walk out because discipline feels heavier than chains. If you want to dominate your environment, you must start with the first and most dangerous weapon, your mouth. Because this is where most men betray themselves. Your words shape your fate long before your actions do. When you speak, you expose. When you're silent, you force others to guess, to analyze, to fill in the blanks, and in that space of uncertainty, your power multiplies. Mystery is not an aesthetic. It is a strategic tool. People fear what they cannot predict. They fear what they cannot read. They fear what they cannot fully understand. And when you learn to control your speech, not through repression, but through intention, you step into a level of influence most men never touch. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of control. Every time you feel the urge to respond, to correct, to defend, to explain, shut your mouth. Because that urge rarely comes from intelligence. It comes from ego. And ego is the most treacherous enemy Machiavelli ever identified. Ego convinces you that to talk is to exist, that to prove yourself is necessary, that winning the moment matters more than winning the long game. But true power is the ability to exist without needing to clarify, justify, or announce your worth. When you master your mouth, you become untouchable. Others try to decipher you, but they can't. They observe you with hesitation and curiosity. They imagine motives, strengths, plans, all while you analyze them in silence. You occupy their mind while saying nothing. That is invisible influence. And when you finally choose to speak, every word hits with the precision of an arrow released by a trained hand. But the mouth is just the surface. The deeper war, the real war, happens inside your mind. Your mind is your inner kingdom. If you allow it to be overrun by noise, opinions, distractions, and emotional storms, you hand over your throne to the world. And make no mistake, the world is constantly trying to invade it. Everything around you is designed to steal your attention. Screens, alerts, arguments, trends, provocations. The system does not need to chain you. It only needs to distract you. A distracted mind is an obedient mind. Machiavelli understood this long before phones existed. To dominate a population, you must keep it busy with meaningless passions. You want freedom? Then protect your mind like a sacred fortress. Do not let everything in. Not every thought deserves a home. Not every opinion deserves to enter. Not every emotion deserves to run freely in your inner court. Negative assumptions, people's fears, their projections, their judgments, none of that belongs in your mental empire. You must build filters. You must become selective. Calm is not the absence of noise. Calm is the strength to remain still within it. When your mind becomes still, you stop being a slave to the world. Provocations don't pierce you anymore. Criticism doesn't shake you. Losses don't destroy you. Because you understand something most people never learn. Everything begins and ends inside the mind. If the mind remains stable, the world cannot destabilize you. That mental control, true cognitive sovereignty, leads directly to emotional control. And your emotional stability reveals your level of power more clearly than anything else. A man who angers easily has no control. A man who laughs desperately at every joke is craving approval. But a man who remains neutral and unreadable destabilizes others. Because uncertainty is the terrain of power. Machiavelli wrote that he who commands his emotions commands those around him. Most people operate purely from reaction. Their biological puppets pull the right emotional string and they dance. But when you stay composed while others panic, you become their anchor. When you remain cold while others burn, you become the presence they unconsciously follow. People instinctively gravitate toward the calm in the storm. Be that calm. Your mood is not just a feeling, it's a silent weapon. Use it with precision. One day you're distant, one day warm, never predictable. Predictability invites manipulation. Mystery creates respect. Be stable, but not easily defined. Be kind, but not easily accessed. Be collected, but not easily read. The world fears what it cannot forecast. But perhaps the most revealing battlefield of all, the one that exposes a man's character more brutally than his emotions, is money. Money unmasks everything. Many claim discipline until they have something to spend. Many claim stability until their desires are fed. Money amplifies chaos in the weak and multiplies advantage in the strong. Think of your money as an army. Every dollar a soldier. If you send your soldiers into battle without strategy, they die for nothing. If you place them wisely, patiently, at the right moment, they conquer territory for you. The average man spends emotionally. The strategic man invests intentionally. Don't be a consumer, be a general. Every expense must serve your power, your autonomy, your future. Machiavelli warned that fortune destroys the undisciplined. And he was right. Those who chase wealth recklessly lose it slowly. Those who build it deliberately become unbreakable over time. Wealth isn't a race. Wealth is a consequence, a natural outcome of discipline, patience, and strategic restraint. When you earn money, don't broadcast it. Pride is the first step toward collapse. Money should not be used as a billboard. Money should be used as a shield. The same way you keep your plans private, keep your prosperity private. Let others guess. Let them underestimate. Let them wonder. Because the moment you reveal too much, you invite competition, envy, and sabotage. Power thrives in discretion. And understand this essential truth. You do not become strong by doing more. You become strong by doing less, but doing it with intention. You do not become powerful by reacting. You become powerful by choosing. You do not become wealthy by earning endlessly. You become wealthy by controlling your flow. Weak men seek attention. Strong men seek control. If you want to rule anything outside of you, you must first rule everything inside of you. Because your mouth, your mind, your mood, and your money, these four pillars, are the foundation of your inner empire. If even one of them collapses, the entire structure falls. Start training yourself daily, because self-mastery is not a switch you flip. It's a muscle you forge. Every morning, before the world tries to pull you into its noise, make a silent vow. I will not betray myself today. Watch yourself before you speak. Reflect before you act. Analyze before you judge. This is how you step out of the identity society programmed into you. The emotional toy, the predictable reactor, the man who lives at the mercy of whatever stimulus hits him first. Becoming powerful is not about inflating your ego. It's about removing your vulnerabilities. When you control yourself, other people suddenly start responding to you differently. You won't have to convince anyone of your strength. They will feel it. Your calm becomes its own form of dominance. Most men chase respect with noise. They argue, boast, correct, and defend. But the truly powerful understand that the world respects restraint far more than aggression. Noise attracts the weak. Silence attracts the powerful. Don't lose yourself in pointless conversations that drain your mind. Don't allow impulsive reactions to drag you into battles that don't matter. Don't spend money to buy admiration from people who don't actually care about you. Learn to move like a strategist. Your words should be rare. Your thoughts disciplined, your emotions controlled, your money protected. Every time you stay calm while someone tries to provoke you, you rise above them. Every time you hold back from speaking, you become more unpredictable. Every time you resist spending just to impress, you expand your freedom. And freedom, real freedom, is the one form of wealth no tyrant, no system, no critic can ever take from you. Machiavelli taught that self-mastery is the deadliest weapon a man can wield. Because the man who governs himself cannot be governed by others. You cannot bribe him, guilt him, manipulate him, or intimidate him. He is not owned by impulse or emotion. He owns himself. And the world cannot break a man who governs himself. That's why you must train your inner discipline the same way a warrior trains his body. Close your mouth not out of fear, but out of calculation. Calm your mind not by suppressing thoughts, but by choosing which thoughts deserve your energy. Stabilize your mood not by denying emotion, but by refusing to be ruled by it. Direct your money not to look wealthy, but to become wealthy. Most people view control as a cage, but in truth, it is the foundation of liberation. When you control your instincts, you are not restricting yourself. You are freeing yourself from the invisible forces that once dictated your life. The man who is free on the inside is more powerful than 1,000 men who roar loudly but crumble under pressure. Stop trying to prove anything. Stop performing. Stop seeking permission from a world that isn't even paying attention. Be what others pretend to be. Quiet, calm, deliberate. While they burn themselves out talking, you build. While they spend to impress, you accumulate. While they react emotionally, you observe. And when the moment finally comes, you move not with hesitation, not with panic, but with precision. A man who has mastered himself strikes like a blade sharpened in silence. Machiavelli warned that the prince who is ruled by his impulses forfeits his throne long before the battle even begins. Look around you. That's the modern condition. Men dream as kings while behaving like children. Kings in fantasy, slaves in action, slaves to comfort, slaves to validation, slaves to their own untrained instincts. They have the potential for power, but lack the discipline to embody it. Their mind is an open prison, and they live inside it willingly, too afraid to confront the discomfort required to free themselves. If you want to move like a strategist, begin with your mouth. Because most men lose the game there. Their need to be right, to be seen, to be heard, betrays them long before their enemy lifts a finger. When you speak, you expose. When you're silent, you become unreadable. People cannot attack what they cannot define. Your silence forces them to reveal themselves first, their intentions, their agendas, their insecurities. And once they reveal their position, you choose your response from a place of power instead of impulse. That is how control works. And understand this. The world is built to tempt you into losing that control. Everything is engineered to trigger you, to provoke, distract, overwhelm, and confuse you. Opinions, politics, entertainment, arguments, advertising. It all competes for your attention because your attention is the fuel that powers systems you don't control. Machiavelli would have told you, if you want to be free, protect your focus. Your attention is the throne of your internal kingdom. Whoever controls your attention controls your direction. Whoever controls your direction controls your destiny. That is why silence and stillness are not just behaviors, they are strategies. Calm is not passivity. Calm is positioning. When your mind becomes still, you don't get pulled into emotional traps anymore. You stop reacting to provocations designed to derail you. You stop caring about noise that once felt urgent. You stop fighting battles that don't advance your mission. And through that stillness, you gain something far more valuable than approval or applause. Clarity. Clarity about who you are. Clarity about what matters. Clarity about where you're going. And once you have clarity, you develop emotional control. Emotional stability is not numbness. It's not about feeling less. It's about choosing what deserves to move you. A man with emotional governance is magnetic because he cannot be manipulated. People instinctively trust the calmest person in the room, not the loudest, not the angriest, the calmest. Because calmness in chaos looks like leadership. That's why your mood must be treated as a weapon, not a reaction. Your neutrality must become unsettling. Your unpredictability must become a shield. When you cannot be read, you cannot be controlled. When you cannot be provoked, you cannot be defeated. And when you combine that internal power with disciplined control of your money, you become a different kind of man entirely, a man the world cannot buy, shake, manipulate, or ignore. You will notice something the moment you begin mastering your mouth, your mind, your mood, and your money. The world slows down around you. While others rush, you watch. While they panic, you remain centered. While they speak endlessly, you listen. They scatter their energy. You accumulate yours. And when everything collapses around them, you're still standing. Because your empire was built on the one foundation no one can destroy: yourself. If you truly apply these principles, you will not remain the same. Your presence will change. Your gaze will change. Your energy will shift. People will sense something different about you long before they understand why. Because real power is invisible. it's felt. It's the calm that unsettles, the silence that dominates, the stillness that draws attention without asking for it. Self-mastery is the highest form of respect. Respect for your time, respect for your potential, respect for the man you're becoming. And when you live by that law, the world loses its ability to manipulate you. You stop being controlled by opinions, emotions, and circumstances. You become the architect of your own reign. Close your mouth, tame your mind, steady your mood, command your wealth, then walk quietly toward your inner empire, because while others talk, you rule. If you understand that real power begins the moment you master yourself, then remember this each morning. The world does not need another loud voice. It needs silent strength. One man who sees clearly, feels precisely, acts strategically, and speaks only when necessary can move more than whole armies of impulsive men. When you live this way, something incredible happens. You become a presence. You walk into a room differently. You don't need validation. You don't need applause. You don't need to be understood. You move through the noise untouched because nothing inside you is reactive anymore. Everything inside you is intentional. Flattery no longer seduces you. Criticism no longer wounds you. Chaos no longer shakes you. Provocation no longer tempts you. You are unmoved, and an unmoved man becomes magnetic. Your silence begins to speak for you. Your consistency becomes authority. Your stillness becomes power. You no longer need to argue for respect. Your discipline earns it before you open your mouth. And you no longer need to fight every battle because you've already conquered the only battlefield that matters, yourself. While others drown in distraction, you focus. While they chase attention, you build value. While they react emotionally, you respond with clarity. The world will try to pull you into its noise. Let it try, and then walk through it untouched. Because once you master your internal state, the world no longer dictates your movement. You dictate everything. Your time, your reactions, your decisions, your pace. A man who needs nothing controls everything. That is the version of you the world cannot break, cannot buy, and cannot use. Machiavelli taught that a prince must control perception. But here is the deeper truth. A prince who does not first control himself will be destroyed by those who do. So rule yourself first. Rule your hunger. Rule your impatience. Rule your impulses. Rule your ego. Rule your instinct to show off, to explain, to be understood. Rule your need to win every argument. Because when you govern yourself, you begin to govern your reality. The world is loud because it fears silence. It screams because it fears reflection. But you be different. Be disciplined. Be intentional. Be composed. Be powerful. Let your calm unsettle. Let your stillness dominate. Let your restraint say what words never could. And when the world burns around you, remain untouched. Not from apathy, but from mastery. Because true power does not shout. It watches. It waits. Then it moves with precision the moment the opportunity appears. Remember this. Self-mastery is the origin of all power. When you control yourself, nothing, not chaos, not critics, not circumstances can control you. That is where your kingdom begins. Not outside, but within. From this moment forward, let mastery be your religion. Watch yourself. Correct yourself. Elevate yourself. Because there is no victory greater than the one you win over your own nature. And when you finally reach that level, when your silence sharpens, your thoughts discipline, your emotions stabilize, and your wealth obeys your strategy, you will no longer chase power. You will become it. In the end, everything begins and ends with you. The world will keep testing you, provoking you, tempting you. But none of it matters if you remain the one who decides your words, your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. Master yourself, and chaos becomes quiet. Master yourself, and opportunities reveal themselves. Master yourself, and no one can move you from your path. Walk with intention, speak with precision, protect your energy, and let your silence build the power others only pretend to have. Your kingdom starts within. Rule it well.